Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. 8:34 a.m. South African time. We cross over to Palestine and we'll be speaking with uh, a journalist based in Gaza, Mohammad Shabaan, to talk to us about one of the most inhumane and heartbreaking stories that I've come across. I think just when you talk about the occupation of the Palestinians and their land, that in itself is unbelievable in this day and age in the 21st century. But this story about Palestinian families campaigning for Israel, for the Israeli occupiers to return their children's bodies, is absolutely heartbreaking, unimaginable, and totally inhumane. Mohammad Shabaan, Salaam alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Absolutely heartbreaking. What is the story behind the Palestinian families not being able to bury their loved ones?
Okay, assalamu alaikum firstly. And thank you for hosting me to talk about such an important topic that the world must know that. We should know that the crimes of the Israeli occupation are not limited to those who are alive, but also to those who are dead. And unfortunately, the Israeli occupation arrest or detain many dead bodies of Palestinians and prevent their families to visit them or to bury them or to complete the process of funeral as usual. And it's something like collective punishment that Israel occupation practices against Palestinians and to make them feel more painful and to deprive their human rights. And it's against the international laws. It's against the Geneva Convention that make some prevent the arrest of the bodies, and they must retain the bodies of those Palestinians to their families. Now Israel occupation arrest about 105 Palestinians bodies and did not return them to their families. In addition to about more than 250 Palestinians in what is called a number cemetery, and there is no names. They are just numbers 1, 2, 3, and that's only. And this shows the Israeli apartheid system, the Israeli inhuman policies, and their intentional policy to humiliate Palestinians and to deprive them from their humanity. And also, beside this, there are more than 9 Palestinian bodies who died inside Israeli jails. And until now, their bodies did not return to their family, including about 5 Palestinian children and about 3 or 4 women also are being held in the Israeli for the Israeli authorities. So what I want to reach to you is this policy is not new. It's since decades that Israeli occupation practices against Palestinians as a way to put pressure. And there is something else that I want to mention, that Israeli occupation used these bodies, beside it is a collective punishment, use them as a pressure on the Palestinian resistance in Gaza to make a prisoner exchange and to release the Israeli soldiers who are captured for the Palestinian resistance in Gaza by releasing those bodies instead of releasing the alive prisoners inside Israeli jails. So it is a clear violation to the human rights standards and to the international laws and to the international convention like the Geneva Convention that Israeli occupation practices against Palestinians.
So will the Palestinians definitely not go into any negotiations regarding releasing of the occupied soldiers for the dead bodies? Is that not on the table at all? And I also see that a campaign has been formed to ask for the release of the bodies of these of the Palestinians, men, women, and children. Apart from the campaign that I think you are also involved in, what about the Geneva Convention and international human rights bodies to act on your behalf to try and negotiate to get the release of these bodies?
Okay, look now regarding the bodies of those martyrs who are being held to the occupation authorities. There were since the beginning. There are many negotiations that the Israel occupation must release them because they are dead and they have the right to be. I mean that there is dignity even for those who are dead. But the point is that here in Gaza, the Palestinian resistance factions are trying to release the big number, as big as possible, of the Palestinian prisoners, not only those who are dead, but also those who are alive. But for the for the Israeli authorities, they want just to release those dead body, and that's only so we can here in Gaza release the four soldiers. So there are many negotiations, but the negotiations here are not limited to those who are dead, but we want to release all prisoners, alive and dead. And also, besides the attempts of the Palestinian resistance factions in Gaza, also there are many humanitarian or human rights groups, organizations, institutions, whether here in Gaza, in the West Bank, or out of Palestine, make some campaigns from time to time demanding to release the bodies of those Palestinians, dead bodies held by the Israeli occupation authorities. But as usual, there is no response from the Israeli occupation. And this shows the extent of the Zionist, of the Israeli hatred towards the Palestinian people and Israeli racism and apartheid and dehumanization towards these people. So again, there are many negotiations towards this issue. But here in Gaza, we want to include the exchange deal to include both alive and dead prisoners because because they have to be free and they have to live normally as anyone in this life. And for those who are dead, they have to be uh, like what to their family, Palestinian family. They have the right to see these bodies, to visit their graves, and to practice their right as normal. So that's it.
Okay, I have a couple of messages here which I'd like to read out, and I will then, uh, put a few more questions to you before we wrap up. Surya Mamin Azada has written in. Assalamu alaikum. She says, occupation is unlawful. How can powerful leaders allow this to continue? Blood on their hands. And obviously, she is referring to other world leaders. She goes on to say, our hearts and prayers are with the Palestinian people, of course. We are also praying for them. And lastly, sad, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring aid to Pakistan. I'm not sure if she means Pakistan or Palestine there, but whichever it is, we hear you, dear sister. Thank you indeed for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Coming back to you, Mohammad Shabaan, are you hopeful that with all of the pressure being put on the Israeli occupiers, that hopefully the prisoners will be released, the Palestinian prisoners, and the bodies will be released? Or do you believe not enough pressure is being put on Israel, that they are getting away literally, literally and figuratively with murder to the highest degree?
Okay, we hope that these efforts are enough, but unfortunately, okay, we appreciate these efforts from individuals or human rights institutions, but unfortunately, these efforts are not enough to release those prisoners because this occupation does not know the language of peace, the language of humanitarian, I mean humanitarian language. They only know the language of war is the language of weapon, the language of the blood. This is the occupation, and it's the basis. It's the basis that this occupation was established on since the beginning. I mean, blood, massacres, and killing, and whatever. So the only solution, and especially something else, especially these efforts are not enough because of the international silence towards the Israeli crimes committed against Palestinians, whether those who are alive or dead. So the first thing that we need to make these efforts successful and effective, is to stop the international silence and the powerful state or the powerful agencies, organization like United Nations, like other organization, must put pressure on the Israeli occupation to stop its crimes against Palestinians, and also regarding the countries who normalize with the Israeli occupation, there are main factors in supporting this occupation to continue their crimes against Palestinians. So they have to stop their normalization with the Israeli occupation and to stop to cut their relation, whether a political relation, economic relation, or social relation with this occupation. By the way, we can at least go forward successful steps to put pressure on this occupation and to stop the crimes against Palestinians. So we hope from the whether from Arab countries, Islamic countries, or the other countries to act towards the Palestinian issue, to cut their relations with the Israeli occupation and stop normalization, because this is not a state, it's not a peaceful state to normalize with. Its occupation, it was established in blood, massacres, and killing and inhuman actions. So this is the only way to make our efforts towards the Palestinian people successful. And that's it.
Finally, there's not a week that goes by that we don't cover a story here on Salam Media about the outrageous genocide being perpetrated on the innocent Palestinian people by the Israeli occupiers. And each week or each event seems to be more horrific than the previous
Mm,
one. Like the story about not releasing the bodies of men, women, and children, Palestinian men, women, and children who have been murdered by the occupiers. So I'm absolutely horrified. And I kind of wonder, uh, obviously, this is a tactic being deployed by the occupiers to break the spirit of the Palestinian people. How much
mhm.
longer do you think the Palestinian people will have the strength to withhold this genocide?
Look, now at the end we are human, and we feel painful, we feel sad, we feel sorrow for separation of our beloved ones. But in the same time, we believe that all the attempts of the occupation to decrease or to defeat our spirits or our determination, where is fails, because we are stronger than that. We struggled not for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. We are struggling since the 1948. Second, this occupation by all means, whether by political, by military, or by spiritual means. So Palestinians are stronger than the attempts of the occupation to decrease their spirits. And inshallah, as soon as possible, they were, the Palestinian will see their beloved ones, whether dead or whether the alive one, and they will be free. They will get their rights as soon as possible, because this occupation at the end, occupation, and it will end, and it will not be for a long time, because because it's our right, and we have to fight until we defeat this occupation and end it. So we are stronger than them. But the only thing that we are asking for as Palestinians is to, and it's a message for the international community, as I said before, is to stand beside us and to stand in I mean, to act towards this issue, and to stop the Israeli crimes and to fight until end this occupation and return the human rights to the Palestinians. And we hopefully, looking forward to the international moving towards this issue. And at the end, yeah, we'll be free and we
Okay,
live our
inshallah.
live our life
That's
normally.
that's that's where we leave it. Mohammad Shabaan, a Palestinian journalist based in Gaza. Thank you indeed for sharing this with us. Our thoughts and du'as will always be with the Palestinian people, inshallah, till they are emancipated. We will always keep you alive in our minds, in our hearts, and right here at Salam Media and in South Africa. Go well. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
8:50 exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media. Standing by to talk with us is Sumaya Hassan. She's the operations manager for Care for Cancer Foundation. So please stay with us.